Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around we are on the map Oakenhammer playing as the forces of the Dark Elves against the forces of the Tomb Kings. And for this match I really wanted to go wide. I wanted to swarm the Tomb Kings and overwhelm them that way because I kind of figured that trying to go narrow wouldn't be the best idea if my opponent went really elite missile heavy, which of course Tomb Kings are fond of between Bone Giants, the Ushabti Great Bows, as well as the Casket of Souls, and of course sometimes you see the trolley Screaming Skull Catapult or Memeing Skull Catapult, but regardless, long-range missiles are sort of the Tomb King game, and rather than trying to beat them at their own game with some bolt throwers or whatever, I wanted to just rush them and swarm them. So for the build, we are going to be rocking with a Sorceress of Death. Not much to be said for her. She is pretty good. Well, more like a non-lord. You just bring her to get a caster and lord all in one, and that leaves you with a lot of money left over for your army. Life Leeching and Arcane Conduit gives her good amounts of winds magic. Of course, she does get Arzripal's Black Horror, which is objectively the most beautiful spell in the entire game. Just evaporating infantry, beautiful little wind spell. Looks really, really awesome. So you always got to bring it, in my opinion. Doesn't matter if it's the most practical choice, you got to bring it. We also do have Soul Blight as well as Spirit Leech in the game. Well, the Soul Blight is there to help out if my opponent had brought Tomb Guard, help the Sisters as well as the Blackheart Corsairs trade a bit better, and Spirit Leech to whittle down constructs, heroes, that sort of thing. Frontline is fairly elite, all things considered. 2 Sisters of Slaughter, as well as 2 Blackheart Corsairs, backed up by a handful of Dread Spears, providing additional sort of width and support. Sisters of Slaughter will basically dumpster anything they come into contact with as far as infantry is concerned, and if they can overwhelm the backline with poison, they can slow Ushabti Great Bows, prevent them from escaping, snare them, bog them down. Blackheart Corsairs trade okay with Tomb Guard, especially with help from the Supreme Sorceress. To deal with Bit Large, we do have 3 units of Shades. It's a vanilla variant because we don't have money for anything else, but these guys can hopefully dumpster big constructs and cav and chariots and that sort of thing. And finally, we do have 3 Cold One Knights providing additional AP anti-large as well as high mass to stop my opponent. Now for my opponent's build, a bunch of skelly trash making up the front line, backed up by Ushabti Great Bows. This is kind of the core of the army here, really. It's trying to kite away, whittle me down with Ushabti, and then clean up whatever's left with this monstrous chariot force. We do have a Necrotect in here. This bad boy does have the Vambraces of the Sun as well as the Restore, so some good buffs and debuffs, or really a good heal as well as debuffs that weaken my troops to fire damage. This can actually synergize very nicely with Cetra, who does have the Blessed Blade of Trob, which is his damage output. We also do have Cetra, who's coming in with the usual cheapo depot spells, as well as use of Incantation of Desiccation, great AoE debuff. We've got Nero's Incantation of Protection, very good. If you don't have any magic damage to deal with it, it can make you very beefy, as well as healing all your trash troops. Joff's Incantation of Cursed Blades can really help in the AP department, but buffs the Nehekarn Horsemen up to some pretty astronomical levels. There are also some Skeleton Horsemen out on the flanks, providing additional support, as well as a Tomb Prince, who is coming in with Guardian, as well as the Curse of Joff, which is pretty nasty. And between that, my opponent definitely has a lot of counters to my infantry, and as you can see, I'm going to be trying to skirt around the edges with the Cold One Knights. I do not want them taking fire early from the Ushabti. I'm simply looking to close the gap here very quickly. Ushabti are powerful against elite infantry, but not overwhelmingly so. Casket of Souls is definitely much more brutal, so I can weather this storm. Yeah, I'm going to lose like a couple dozen models maybe. I'm going to lose a few shades here as well. But I can weather that, plow through this infantry, and after that, push onward. And you can see the Sisters haven't even taken damage here. Shades do try to get into range, but as I'm not able to do so, we're actually going to turn around and fall back shortly as the Blackheart Corsairs close on the Skeletons. And my opponent's going to be on a bit of a timer here. My infantry will win this fight. The Blackheart Corsairs, Sisters of Slaughter will beat these troops. And once these troops are gone, I can then push on to the back and pressure these Ushabti, as well as the mob of elites back here. You can see the Dread Spears kind of loitering here on the flanks. Really, I could have probably committed them here, but I figured I'd keep them in reserve. We do have another unit of Spears back here in reserve. And over here, we are starting to sort of slowly flank. The Cold One Knights looking to get an encirclement, getting in on the Skeleton Horsemen. Keep in mind, Tomb King Cavalry is very slow. Makes it very, very difficult to flank. We do actually have a single unit of Carrion up here as well, which I forgot to mention. But they are now swooping down from the skies, looking to get in on the Shades. But the Shades are not to be messed with. And rather than shooting these guys, they're actually going to turn around and engage in close quarters combat, where their solid 16 charge bonus and decent damage output means they're actually going to tear these Carrion apart in seconds. And this is better than shooting into melee, because if I shot into melee, I'd probably do a lot of friendly fire, screw myself over that way. This way we just wipe these Carrion, lose a couple shades, but who really cares? Meantime, frontline is going rather well. Now, the heroic Chariot squad is plowing through these poor Blackheart Corsairs and Dread Spears, but not before the infantry crumbles. And now the Sisters are piling through. They're getting in on the cavalry, disrupting them. In comes the Sorcerers, in come the Cold One Knights. More Sisters of Slaughter pulling in from the sides. The Chariot Goon squad is all the way out here. Shades now pushing forward. Dread Spears pushing forward. Cold One Knight still on standby, more Cold One Knights pouring in, and we are getting a nice little surround here. You can see a Spirit Leech goes down to Shopti. I was just looking to whittle them down a little bit, and we are going to cast a Soul Blight here. Overcast, debuffing these guys a whole bunch, bringing their armor down to 0 actually. It's going to help the Sisters of Slaughter do a lot more damage. Fortunately, Shopti Summon is going to go down there, but we've got a lot of pressure going in here, and we're able to surround this mob. Unfortunately, these Shades not quite in position to whittle down Cetra as well as all these enemy lords and heroes, but we are sort of piling in with our cav, bogging these guys down, preventing them from getting too far. In the meantime, Spears as well as Sisters are pushing in, looking to get some good damage in. Over here, Blackheart Corsairs are slowly but surely chewing through those Skeleton Spears. We're actually going to dive in here with our Sorceress, look to get a little bit of damage in on these Ushapti. Not ideal, but, you know, got to try to get something done. Unfortunately, it looks like Yusuf's Incantation of Desiccation is afflicting her, despite, I believe, having big cast over there. Perhaps it stays on her. But she's taking a lot of Ushapti fire. We do actually see a beautiful Orange Ripples Black Horror here. Just this pall of smoke pushing through, crumbling these poor Skeleton Spears, just completely enveloping them. And they are not going to be long for this world. Orange Ripples Black Horror tears through these guys. Just look at those skeletons just crumbling and collapsing very, very quickly there. A rather high HP unit. And before all is said and done, they crumble to dust, annihilated by that just terrible fog. And now these Skeleton Spears are gone. That frees up basically all of my infantry, but one of the big problems here, one of the big misplays perhaps, is the fact that my opponent remains with this very powerful cavalry squad, or chariot squad. And you might be thinking, well, you've still got Cold One Chariots, or Cold Ones, you still have quite a bit of mass there, you still do have your Sorceress. Well, the problem is, well, I'm about to lose my Sorceress. She's getting sniped down by Ushapti. I wasn't paying attention for a little bit, wasn't juking around and microing, and in that moment, she's going to lose her leadership. I should have charged here to regain some leadership, but she's actually going to rout, and she's going to rout off the field because it's so close to the edge. And that's one disaster. The second disaster is that Heroic Chariots are actually very strong against cavalry. It's something a lot of people don't realize, but Heroic Chariots are very good in combat. And unfortunately, they're able to squeak through here, get on top of my Shades. I don't have Spirit Leech or anything to be debuffing these guys. We do manage to annihilate the Tomb Prince, which is a big win, avoiding getting rampaged by Curse of Joff or anything like that, so that's definitely huge. But with my leadership gone from the field, things are going to start looking much more grim. Balance of power is about dead even. The Shades are being compromised, but we do push in with our cavalry, get a beautiful surround here. Pushing back on the Necrotech, pushing back on Cetra. Shades pouring fire into Cetra, doing a lot of damage, taking about half his HP off. But down comes the Curse. This was a big misplay on my part. Getting blobbed up here like this, letting that Curse do boatloads of damage. Even the Shades here getting hit by Yusuf's Incantation of Desiccation. That's going to make all my troops losing. Keep in mind, Cetra, with that AP damage, he's probably knocking off like 2-3 models a swing against the Cold One Knights. It's actually pretty brutal how much damage he can do. Nair's Incantation of Protection, shielding him against the Shades, and things are looking kind of disastrous. Right now, the only winning thing, really, is that we've managed to get on these Ushapti, prevent them from escaping, and swarm them with spears. Sisters of Slaughter, in the meantime, pushing alongside the Dread Spears to pressure away these Ushapti, so that's going to be a little bit of a win there, hopefully. But the Chariots do roll, and all my cavalry's routed. They're gone, essentially. Running amok among the Shades. I do try to have the Shades hold ground and fire, but yeah, they're just getting dumpstered by this very angry Chariot. We do get the Cold One Knights in there, pinning these guys in for a little bit. They rampage, but look at how quickly they get deleted by those Heroic Chariots. Whether or not it's overtuned, that's debatable, but yeah, Chariots way better than you would expect against cavalry. So those Cold One Knights are goners, and now I don't really have anything to protect these Shades. They're running for dear life. Fortunately, my opponent is going to be unable to pursue all of them. He does route one unit of Shades there, but isn't able to get on top of this one out here. So we've got units of Shades all over the place. But once again, look at these guys. We're going to see like a little explosion there. The Wrath of Tra doesn't do very much, but Blessed Blade is going to debuff these guys a whole bunch. And Cetra plus Necrotect is going to dumpster these Cold Ones very, very quickly. They're gone in seconds. And although we do pour some fire in there from the Shades, dropping him down to 400 HP, he does still get his heal from the Lord passive, and we're not able to kill him off. So a bit of a disaster there. Now I'm going to try to pull back here with an infantry squad. The whole blob of infantry here, I kind of hope that with this much mass, it will be difficult or impossible for Cetra to escape, no matter what he does, or push through. The Shades are rallying in the distance. In this tree line, they're kind of well protected, able to pour in fire, and there is some action going on. I should mention, all the way out here where the Spears as well as the Sisters are pursuing the Ushapti. Keep in mind, if the Sisters land one single hit with their melee attacks, they will drop these Ushapti to a point where the Ushapti can't escape the Sisters at very least, which would be good, and then the Spears can most likely catch up, because my opponent will be forced to stand and fight with Ushapti. But the real focus here is in the pits, where Cetra is surrounded and, well, taking Withering Fire. He finally does fall. The Imperishable perishes quite handily there. But this Necrotect is still there, whipping his horses, whipping the Dark Elves all around him, and running around like a madman. I do try to block him up with the Black Orc Corsairs, and they don't really hold very well at all. Despite being a pretty dense formation, they couldn't hold. The Shades here are pouring as much fire as they can into him, but he's just going to pile right through them. Knocks down a few models there. Fortunately doesn't kill all of them, but I'm going to make a bit of a run for the hills here, just looking to escape into the tree line, pulling these Dread Spears in, trying to help, and I figured, you know what, I'm going to sit tight and camp in the trees here if I have to. Unfortunately, friendly firing some of the Shades there, but we're just going to sit tight here and try to gun this guy down. And you can see that the trees are screwing up the pathing. They are making it difficult for this Necrotech to get anywhere. He's now taking point-blank shots from the Shades. Spears are pouring in, and though he is going to run away from there, that is going to now open him up to some rear fire, hopefully from the Shades, to put him down. You can see balance of power is pretty decisively in my favor, but right now this guy could potentially run some stuff over. Fortunately, that rear volley there actually does break his leadership. Over here on the periphery, we actually did catch and wipe the Ushabti. That is going to be game. So a pretty brutal match that I think demonstrates just how powerful Heroic Chariots could be. An insane amount of damage. You had almost 400 kills on just this Heroic Chariot squad alone. And really the rest of the Dark Elf army did, or the rest of the Tomb King army did very little. They just kind of folded over and died. But the Necrotect, Tomb Prince, and especially Cetra are just brutal against basically everything I had here. And with Nero's Incantation Protection, you can soak a decent amount of damage from the Shades, as well as the Cold One Knights. Now, granted, massive misplay on my part was letting my Sorceress get chased off and routed. If I'd played a little safer with her, I could have probably gotten some Spirit Leeches off. That would have probably been huge. Just even if it had been like 2 or 3 Spirit Leeches, that could have been the difference between Cetra being in the shape he was, where he had like 1,000 HP or so and was still going strong, versus being dead. So that was something that definitely made a difference. But regardless, the Chariots did a lot of damage. Able to go really toe-to-toe really with the Cold One Knights was just insane. Obviously, the leadership bombing from the Lord Lost didn't help, but still, the Cold One Knights got wrecked by this Chariot squad, which is pretty nuts. Shades tried. They did what? 2 of them gained chevrons. They did a lot of damage. They melted the Necrotech. They melted Cetra. They melted the Tomb Prince. They did kill those Chariots eventually, but it was just very difficult to pin them down. And for the rest of the build, I was pretty satisfied with how the infantry performed. I couldn't really expect much more. Obviously, the Sisters and the Black Orc Corsairs were going to eradicate this sort of cheap front line, but they actually kept going and kept contributing long after that initial engagement. They helped deal with the Ushabti Greatbows, helped deal quite a bit with the cavalry fight. They provided an excellent support to the Cold One Knights. That was only really broken up because my Lord routed, and because the Chariots were just so strong. But definitely some potency out of this infantry. So all in all, I think I was pretty satisfied. I think my biggest misplay here was just the misplay with the Lord. My opponent's build, definitely just insane. I was definitely insane just how much damage Cetra did. He just really manhandled my army. That said, not entirely sure how well this would hold up against a more monster folk. Like, if you bring, say, Malekith on Seraphon, this would become a lot more difficult to pull off. And it's not like you won't see Malekith on Seraphon. It's not like you won't see, perhaps, even Marathi on Sulafet. Could throw a wrench into this plan, because she could actually body block you. She could actually trade pretty well with you. She could hit you with a Soul Stealer. Soul Stealer hitting all 3 of these while healing your Lord would just be very powerful. So I'm not sure this is necessarily the build you want, but in this specific situation, it did rather well. You do have some very good counters to infantry. You do have some good counters with the Chariot play, of course. You do have some excellent counters to cavalry with the Ushabti Greatbows. Yeah, I definitely watch out. Be a little wary of sort of either big monsters or really lords and heroes. Also, keep in mind, you could see some Dark Elf Masters nowadays, which, once again, can do a lot of damage. And if your opponent brings some, for example, Dark Riders, and that's one thing I think I could have improved upon here. I could have honestly probably cut some of these Dread Spears, like maybe at least 1 unit of Dread Spears, gotten a unit of Dark Riders on the field. And I think that could have been a huge sort of game changer, because if I'd gotten 1 unit of Dark Riders into the back line, it would have then shut down some of those Ushabti, taking the pressure off my Supreme Sorcerers, giving me a much stronger position. So I think that's another thing worth considering. But for my opponent's build, not sure what I'd tweak. I did think it was pretty solid all around. The biggest weakness, probably single entities. I'd considered taking one of these guys off. You don't necessarily need 3 chariots. I'd consider taking like one of these guys off a chariot. Maybe the Tomb Prince, just leave him on a horse. Use the extra money to upgrade one of the skeletons to Tomb Guard or something. Or upgrade some of these guys to Neckhorn Horsemen, whatever you want. But downgraded the Tomb Prince from a chariot to a, or otherwise get rid of the Necrotect, because the Necrotect's not that valuable in this build. He does bring the AoE debuff, and he does bring heals, but the heals aren't that valuable. You can't heal Cetra, you can't heal the Tomb Prince, you can't heal yourself. And your other 2 value units are Shapti Greatbows, who realistically you don't want taking damage at all. If they're taking damage, you've already messed up. If they're taking so much damage that you need to heal them, yeah, you've really messed up. So I don't think it's really worth getting the heal from the Necrotect. He doesn't really bring much to this, so you'd be better off, I think, cutting him entirely, perhaps. Leave the Tomb Prince, leave Cetra, get another Tomb Prince on a horse maybe, and you'd be in a stronger spot. Just my 2 cents there. Regardless, well played to Manfred here. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you found it fun and entertaining. As usual, leave your thoughts, opinions, comments, critiques down below. I will do my best to respond as soon as I can. Do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.